My father-in-law has dementia, right? Then we will manage his assets.
What? My eyes widened at Caroline's sudden declaration. My name is Samantha. I am a housewife in my late 60s who doesn't mind being called an old lady anymore. My husband, who is older than me, has already retired from work, and he is now a house husband. He used to be an old-fashioned man who never did any housework, but now he is more particular about it than I am. As my daughter Violet says, men get obsessed and go all out, and my husband's passion for cooking is no exception. It's so delicious that I wish I had discovered this talent earlier. If he said,
"The food I make is better than yours,"
we might have ended up in a divorce. But my husband says,
"No matter how well I cook, I can't beat Samantha's cooking."
Even though he used to be a male chauvinist, neither I nor my son nor Violet could stand up to him. Violet said,
"People can change, can't they?"
and laughed. However, something strange happened to my husband after he turned 70.
What's next? Oh, what do I put in here?
He began to struggle with the dishes he was used to making. On another day, when he went shopping and didn't come back for hours, Violet went to look for him and found him standing in front of the entrance.
What was I doing?
Violet and I looked at each other when he said that. He began to forget things, wander around, and we had a bad feeling, so we had him examined at the hospital. The result was,
it's dementia.
Our bad feeling was right.
When you retire, you tend to get dementia. It's quite common, especially for workaholics.
I knew that because my father was like that. However, my husband was still into cooking and housework even after retirement. I thought it was the beginning of his second life, his hobby after retirement. Is it my fault? Did I make him do too much, and was it actually stressful for him?
There are many causes of dementia, but in the end, it happens when it happens, no matter how much you try to prevent it. Don't blame yourself.
That was the only consolation the doctor could offer. We listened to various countermeasures to slow down the progression as much as possible and headed home.
Dad, we're home.
Oh.
Even if he didn't know he had dementia, he must have known something was wrong. He was completely depressed, and his back became small. It was so lonely. The only consolation was that our eldest daughter, Violet, was living with us. Violet always says,
I'm not interested in marriage. My work is more important than anything else.
As a parent, I was conflicted, but now I'm very grateful. However, if she is blessed with a good match, I think our existence as parents should not be a hindrance. With a father who has dementia, wouldn't it be difficult to feel at ease even at home? So I suggested living alone. Violet said,
What are you talking about? I'm your daughter. I can't just leave my parents in trouble when they've helped me get this far. It's okay, I'll figure it out. There are many people at work who have experience with parents, grandparents, or other relatives with dementia, and I've heard a lot of stories. Mom, you shouldn't push yourself too hard. We have to make sure you live a long life. Otherwise, I'll cry.
She said that, and I cried. Although he occasionally shows symptoms of forgetfulness and wandering, my husband is usually fine and doesn't require any care. So Violet and I were able to manage somehow. So, 1 year has passed since my husband's dementia was discovered. One day, Caroline called me out of the blue. My eldest son got married in his late 20s a few years ago. He is now in his mid-30s and has 2 children. That's fine, but he never comes to our house, which is also his home. At first, We were considerate because it must have been difficult for him, but that didn't seem to help. He didn't even come back for New Year's or Christmas, and that didn't change even after his grandchildren were born. When I asked if he could come to see us once in a while, he refused, saying he was busy. However, I heard that he often goes to his wife's parents' house and sees how happy they were with their grandchildren on SNS, which made me sigh. My husband used to say, once a man leaves home, he never looks back, but I know he feels lonely inside. After all, we're a couple. Caroline, who is my eldest son's wife and had become estranged, suddenly called me one day. It's impossible not to be surprised. Well, Caroline, it's been a while. Are you doing well? Is Vincent doing well? Vincent is my son.
It's been a while.
She's still unfriendly. Whenever Caroline talks, she's always like this. She's never made a decent greeting. When I smiled wryly, Caroline said something. Caroline asked.
I heard from my husband that my father-in-law has dementia. Is it true?
Oh, he read the message properly. I thought he hadn't read it because I hadn't heard from him. Caroline replied.
I'm busy and don't have time. Please just answer my question. Is it true that he has dementia?
I answered in a hurry, yes, it's true. Caroline said.
I see.
I wondered if she was worried about her father-in-law in her own way. Or maybe my son said something. I was happy to think that she was worried about us. Caroline said.
I'll come to see you on my next day off.
Really? Will you come with my grandchild? Caroline said.
Dementia is a big problem, so please prepare bank accounts and important documents related to money. I will manage your assets from now on, so please make sure you have all the important documents, including the property rights of your house. I'll come to your place on my day off, take the documents, and leave immediately. I don't need coffee. I'll leave right away. Goodbye.
I said, wait a minute, but she hung up the phone without listening to me. I muttered, what does she mean, while hearing the sound of the phone. While I was thinking about a lot of questions in my head, the next holiday came. And my son and his wife really came to our house. Unfortunately, their grandchild was not with them. It was disappointing that they came to visit after such a long time, but they didn't even greet us. Vincent and Caroline walked into our house without saying anything. Violet said.
Hey, Vincent, no greeting?
But Vincent ignored Violet without even looking at her. They used to be close siblings. I felt sad seeing them like that. We had a discussion with my husband and me, my eldest son and his wife, and my eldest daughter Violet. My husband was feeling good today, and it seemed like he didn't have dementia at all. He must have been happy because it had been a long time since my son and his wife came to visit. I would have been happier if my grandchild had come too. Violet asked.
So what's this about? Mom told me that you want to manage our assets?
Violet was the one who brought up the topic. It's helpful when young people take the initiative because they have faster reflexes than the elderly. Vincent and Caroline shrugged at Violet's words.
It means exactly what it sounds like. Dad is no longer useful, right? So, as the eldest son, it's normal for me to manage the property.
What do you mean by "I'm no longer useful"? That's not true. You're the worst. I've never heard such a thing. We don't even live together.
That's common sense. No matter how much the times change, the world still values the eldest son the most. You're not even the eldest son, so shut up.
I can't just stay silent when you say something so outdated.
Violet slammed the table in frustration. Caroline's signature, tisk, sound came out. Yes, it was a tongue click. Caroline looked at Violet with annoyance and said,
Violet, you're parasitic on your parents' home, so don't be so pushy. We're just saying that we'll fulfill our responsibilities as the eldest son. What's the problem?
You're saying that you'll manage our property even though you don't live together. Mom is still doing well, and I'm living with her.
Caroline sneered at Violet's words.
Huh? That's laughable. You're probably begging your parents for money by living with them. You're in your late 30s and still clinging to your parents.
I'm still in my early 30s.
I don't care. Anyway, you're planning to beg for money because your father has dementia, aren't you? You're so greedy.
What?
That's an outrageous thing to say. They've been ignoring our home all this time. They come to say such selfish things to prevent their inheritance from being reduced. Then I stepped forward and said to my son and his wife, Violet doesn't take money from us, but instead, she puts money into the house. If you're going to manage our property, you'll take care of us too, right? We might have to go to a facility in the future. Will you pay for that too? If we want to spend our last days at home, will you take care of us until the end? Vincent looked surprised. I added, if you came to hear about your father's dementia, then you're supposed to take care of him, right? Otherwise, the words, property management wouldn't have come up.
What? That's disgusting. Who would do such a dirty job as caregiving?
My words were unexpected and unpleasant. Caroline rejected them with surprising words. My son quickly agreed with her.
Oh, yes. We're just saying that we'll manage the property as the eldest son. It's the younger sister's job to take care of Dad since she lives with him, right?
What? That's so selfish, and you're still my brother?
Violet's eyes were cold with disbelief. I felt the same way. They won't provide care, they won't live with us, but they'll hold on to the money. Enough with the nonsense. I'm starting to think that it's okay to break off negotiations with my eldest son's family. We've been estranged all along, and we haven't even seen our grandchild. It's lonely, but I prefer the same old days. Something inside me tells me that I shouldn't be involved with these two. I was thinking about how to drive them away when.
I guess there's no helping it.
Violet sighed deeply and then leaned her chin on her hand and turned to face the two of them. She narrowed her eyes even more and glared at my son and his wife. She said to her brother, who was trembling under her piercing gaze.
That's right, Vincent. You failed at investing and don't have any money, do you?
Huh?
You talked about investing and FX being the way of the future, but you got too into it. You thought you had a talent for investing, didn't you?
Why are you bringing that up?
It's easy to investigate if you ask a specialist.
A specialist? When did you?
Mom got a call about managing the assets. I thought it was strange, so I investigated it right away. The results came out immediately. Vincent is in debt hell, isn't he?
What did you say?
It wasn't me or Violet or even my husband who shouted. It was my son's wife. Oh, didn't she know? Well, I was surprised because I didn't expect Violet to investigate such things, but it was news to me too.
You were just going to manage the assets and use all of Dad's money to pay off your debts, weren't you?
I wasn't going to do that.
Yes, you were. And Caroline.
Violet shifted her gaze from her pale-faced brother to Caroline. With a sharp look, Violet said to Caroline.
You have debts too, don't you?
What? That's not true. I'm always busy with child rearing.
Yes, you're busy. You're busy going to the beauty salon, getting aesthetic treatments, and eating out at expensive restaurants every day.
Violet's sharp sarcasm attacked Caroline.
You're really busy, aren't you? Plus, you have time for dates.
Saying that, Violet handed over several photos. They showed Caroline arm in arm with an unfamiliar man, looking friendly.
Eek. Why did you take pictures without permission?
I didn't take pictures without permission. I was trying to capture the background, and you happened to be in it.
Are you kidding me?
Well, it's scary how coincidences happen.
It was definitely a lie, but Violet laughed nonchalantly. I also saw the photos, and it was definitely Caroline. She had flashy makeup, a perfectly styled hairdo, and expensive-looking clothes, not to mention a bag from a famous brand. She spends a lot of money.
Did you cheat on me?
Vincent shouted. Apparently, they didn't know each other's secrets. The two of them, who were in financial distress, teamed up because they had the same goal. It's ridiculous.
Don't you dare. You kept quiet about your debts, didn't you?
My debts and your cheating are completely different in terms of seriousness, aren't they?
What's different? You used money for yourself and wasted it. You're too selfish.
Isn't your cheating selfish? You spent money on beauty salons, aesthetic treatments, and other things with my money to make yourself beautiful for other men, didn't you? Don't be ridiculous.
You're the ridiculous one. You don't have any talent, but you're dabbling in investments. You don't have any talent for making money. That's why you're a perennial low-level employee who's off the career path and earns a low salary.
That's why I'm trying to increase it in my own way.
I kept my youth by falling in love outside. Isn't it better to have a beautiful wife?
It's a full-blown argument between the two of them. It's a splendid marital quarrel. What should we do? At a point where things were getting out of hand, there was a sudden loud noise. When I looked, my husband had a cup in his hand and had apparently dropped it and broken it.
Oh no. Dad, are you okay?
Violet rushed over in a panic. I also ran over to my husband to make sure he wasn't hurt. Without paying attention to us, my husband looked straight ahead, that is, at my son and his wife.
By the way,
What, Dad?
which one are you?
He looked at them as if they were strangers. They probably never expected their father to look at them like that. My son was shocked and speechless, standing still.
Look, you see? His dementia has gotten worse. He doesn't even recognize his son's face anymore. There's no need to spend money on someone like this, right? Violet, who is single, can take care of my mother-in-law. She's not going to live long anyway, so I don't think we'll be cursed even if we inherit the fortune.
I can't believe you're still saying that. As my husband looked at Caroline with a blank expression, he spoke in the same tone as before.
By the way,
Caroline flinched for a moment at the same tone as before.
What? You can't even remember my face, can you?
well, I remembered our son's face, but I couldn't remember you.
You old fool.
I can't remember. I don't think I know any old hags like you.
Old hag.
Caroline was at a loss for words at the unexpected remark. My husband's words continued.
I know Violet, who is cute, and I have an important foolish son and a beautiful wife, but... Samantha, doesn't that old hag look older than you?
Ha! Oh, really? My husband nodded at me.
Yeah, that's all you can see, right? What an ugly face. She looks like a gold digger or a burglar.
Oh, is that so?
Certainly, someone who steals money from people because they don't have money due to infidelity is like a burglar.
I laughed wryly at her words, and Violet laughed and jumped on her father's words. Even Caroline, who was so good at it, was trembling and blushing. Well, such an ugly expression might make you look older. I was strangely convinced.
A burglar, you say?
My husband, who reacted to Violet's words, went somewhere, thinking about something, and then came back right away. In his hand was a fly swatter in the shape of a racket.
Hey, what the hell, Dad?
Ah. Hey, stop it, it hurts.
You thief. Get out of here.
The husband used a fly swatter to scare his son and daughter-in-law. The son and daughter-in-law panicked and ran away. The two of them were chased out to the entrance.
Enough. We're never coming back to this house again.
They shouted and left. What remained was dust floating in the room and a photo of Caroline's affair. Then, Violet said,
I feel so refreshed.
and nodded with satisfaction. My husband said,
Exactly. We're cutting ties with them.
I was confused and asked, do you know about Caroline? He gave me a sly smile that looked just like Violet's and said,
I'm not in a daze.
Later, Vincent reported that he and his wife had divorced. Vincent had custody of the children, but it was difficult to raise them alone, so they were staying with Caroline's parents. I wondered why Caroline was living with them even though she had divorced, but it turned out that Caroline had been kicked out of her parents' house. I thought she was busy because she frequently left her two children with her parents, but it turned out that she was meeting a man for an affair, which made her parents angry. Vincent had custody of the children, so there was no place for the foolish Violet to live, and Caroline, who cried and begged to be allowed to stay with them, was coldly turned away. Later, it was discovered that the man she was seeing was already married, and a fierce battle ensued with his wife involved. She couldn't pay compensation to my son and the man's wife she was having an affair with, so she went to Vincent and his parents for help. But they were turned away at the door. It is unknown what happened to Caroline after that. The compensation will probably never be paid. Vincent is now living in his ex-wife's parents' house, struggling to pay off his debts. As for us, we are living peaceful days. I don't intend to forgive Vincent, even though he's reflecting on his actions, but it's a nice change that he occasionally brings my grandchildren. Even though Vincent doesn't come into the house and only sees my grandchildren when he picks them up, it's not a burden to have to see Vincent's face for a moment in order to see my grandchildren. My husband's symptoms have settled down for now and are not getting worse. He has severe memory loss, but I can't say anything about that. He hardly wanders anymore. My husband never forgets about Violet and me, and today he said,
You're a really beautiful wife.
Violet teased him.
Isn't that a symptom of dementia?
I poked her head and we laughed. How was this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.